on this computer. Unmute your speaker. Okay, fair enough. I think we're okay. So we should be recording at this point. All right, so and I'm going to share screen. Sure. There we go. So we should be recording at this point. Like I said, we'll talk about the syllabus because this is a flex format course. I've really done a whole lot more than just talk about my contact information and my background. And so we can kind of move forward from there. I've mentioned my door is open. If my door is open, stop in. If I do have somebody in there, what I tell people is just kind of poke your head around the corner, wave at me so I know I've got somebody waiting. Whoever's there before you, just give them the courtesy of letting us finish up. And I'll tell you, look, it's, hey, we've got we're going to be probably another 20-30 minutes, or it's like, we're just finishing up, so it's okay. Just like I said, just let me know if somebody's waiting on me. And but again, if my door's open and somebody's not already in there, feel free to come on in. You don't have to have an appointment. If you do come to campus, especially to see me, though, send me an email. Let's actually kind of have an idea when you're going to be there. I'll make a point to be there in the office at that time. Okay. All right. I'm pretty good at responding to email. I'm not going to say I'm great at it. If you've emailed me in this last week, I know a few of you have on a variety of things. I apologize. Last week was miserable. I will do everything I can to be better about my response time for the future. And I try really hard when a student email comes in, I try to put priority on that above all else, unless I've got something from my boss or my boss's boss that needs to go out quick. Try to put student emails priority first. Right. So I do try to get back to all student emails within 24 hours at the latest. Weekends, holidays, obviously, be mindful of those. And that's true of any professional environment. Just understand over weekends or holidays, your response time is going to be a little bit different. You do not have to use your Raider email. If you do, then it's obvious who you are, and I can easily look you up in the system. If you're going to email me from something else, just make sure I know who you are and which class you're in. I teach 4 different classes, so normally within a couple of weeks, I've got a pretty good idea of who my students are and what classes they're in. And so normally I've got a pretty good idea pretty soon. But just if you're using something that's not your Raider, just be upfront of who you are and what class you're asking questions about. Okay. And again, feel free to call my phone, leave me a voicemail. Feel free to send me an email. If you leave a voicemail, that shows up in my email box later, which I can pick up anywhere I get internet signal. If it shows up, and I can listen to it on my phone for that matter, my cell phone. All right, so we're here for engineering thermodynamics. We've already established that. The regular class time will meet Monday, Wednesday at 2. It is set up as a flex course. We'll talk about that here, and I can see that's about 2 items down on the agenda there. Let's talk about what this course is and expectations coming in. This is a study of the first and second laws of thermodynamics. There are, in fact, 4 laws of thermodynamics. We will mention the 0 law. We'll talk a little bit about the 3rd law, but the real focus here is going to be on the 1st and 2nd law, which we'll introduce briefly this afternoon. I'm expecting that you've already got Physics 1 and Calculus 2 for what we call Calculus 2. That is single variable integrals, right? So we don't do a ton of calculus, but when we do, I need you to understand the basics of what's going on. And when I go through the mechanics, it's like, all right, I can figure that out with some review. That's okay. It's no integration by parts. Never trigonometric substitution. Right. The occasional integration by substitution, maybe, but if you've got to integrate by parts on something, take a hard look and make sure you copy everything down, because I probably didn't intend for that to be the case. Okay, simple integrals. I do expect you to be able to do simple integrals, linear equations, basic polynomials, maybe an exponential. Some kind of power function. That should be no challenge for you. Okay? If those are, go back and brush up your Calc 2. If you've not had Calc 2, you probably shouldn't do it. Also, that can be a bit of a struggle. Again, we don't do calculus all the time. We just do it enough. I need you to be good at it. Physics 1 is really a prerequisite. It's not a co-requisite. I highly recommend trying to co-requisite this course of Physics 1. In the 16 years I've taught the course, I've taught this course since I've been here. There's been a few times I've had other instructors teach, but pretty regularly for the last 16 years I've taught this course. In that entire time, I've seen one student actually successfully finish the 2 courses concurrently, and they made a C in both classes. So the failure rate is not 100% correcting these, but it's not. it's pretty high, right? So have Calc 2 will be at least single variable integrals and Physics 1, right? It's not the most challenging course that you will have the rest of your career finishing up an engineering degree. It may be the most challenging you've had at this point, and that's okay. I don't intentionally try to make the course difficult. You'll see when you get into it. There's just a lot of material, and a lot of it's the first time you see it. So it's okay. And I'm happy to get you through. And again, I'm not trying to make it difficult, but just inherently, a lot of people tell you it does end up a pretty good challenge. Right? Some people just get it right off, and that's okay. Oh, there is a chemistry prerequisite, and so the Physics 1 and the Calc 2, or at least single variable calculus for us, those are pretty hard prerequisites. You don't want to try to attempt this without those. If you've had some chemistry somewhere, you're probably okay. Right? The chemistry is a much softer prerequisite. That's for us, that's Chem 1, or we do offer a chemistry for engineers course that transfers just great to OSU, and we're working on UCO. Either any of those will be fine. So I mean, honestly, if you've had like intro chem, or you had a substantial amount of high school chemistry, you're probably okay. That one's, again, not as make or break. Physics 1, the Calc 2, you definitely have those stuff. Okay. All right. I built this course as a flex course. I don't like to do live Zoom lectures for a variety of reasons. If we absolutely have to, I can. Like if we miss a couple of days because of power failures, tornadoes, whatever the case may be, then maybe we do a live Zoom lecture. My preference very much is to do it asynchronous, where pre-recorded videos. If you're not here, go to the YouTube channel, link there, and go find the appropriate video that matches what we're doing in class at that point. Okay. If you're ever not sure which videos, send me an email. Right. And honestly, if you're in class regularly and you just miss a day or two, send me an email so I know. It's not required, but then I'm happy to kind of go in and say, okay, well, we're kind of in between lecture 5 and 6. So watch these parts of lecture, because they're all in like 5 or 6 parts. Lecture 5 being 5 or 6 parts, lecture 6 might be in 3 or 4 parts. And I can say, okay, watch these parts of lecture 5, these parts of lecture 6, and we get caught up. Okay? If you're completely going to do the course online, and I had quite a few people do that in the spring, and had some success with that. So it is definitely possible. So if you're just completely watching everything online, that's part of the reason, as I mentioned, I'm recording this section right now for those that are just going to do this completely online. And I've also found that people that do attend class regularly, they appreciate being able to go back and review the videos that are recorded. So the videos are a little quiet. The audio on them is a little quiet. I made them in the middle of the pandemic and during times. I literally had a cheap GoPro mounted on a tripod pointed down at a pad of engineering paper, and I had a tablet that I could put my PowerPoint slides on. And so I write on the tablet, and I bring the PowerPoint slides in and show what I want to do there. So you'll see it works. My goal was to try to recreate what I do in the classroom. I'm very comfortable with it does, to the point that I haven't had to read the notes. Right? So I've taught the course enough times. My content hasn't changed too much. We do have a new edition of the textbook, and I did make some changes. So I may have to actually update some of those videos later in the semester. Okay. So anyway, we'll figure that out. But all that to say, there are equivalent videos of everything, just about everything we're gonna do in lecture out on my YouTube channel. If you're ever not sure which videos you should be watching when you're missing class, just let me know. With that said, this is engineering course here at Rose State College, policy-wide. We give exams in person. I'm not interested in your ability to check solutions on the exam, right? If you want to do it on the homework, we'll talk about that in a second. But on exams, I'm very much interested in what can you do given these problems when you're sitting in front of me, or sitting in the testing center in front of a proctor. Okay, so exams be in person. The easiest thing to do, what a lot of people that have done this purely online in this flex format did, is they would just show up for the day of the exams. And already scheduled, and if I move the schedule, I'll let you know. I'll never move an exam date forward in time. I might move it back in time if we don't quite get there. So what's scheduled right now, those would be the exam dates or later. So if you just show up on exam day and take your exams, that's fine. Right? That's okay. I'm perfectly fine with that. Blah blah blah. So textbook information. If you guys tried to access the textbook, I haven't tried to do that. Okay. There's a link here, Brightwave course materials. That is supposed to allow you to access the book, the e-text version of the book. Right? That's supposed to be a thing. I do not know, so let me know if that doesn't work. I'll be honest with you, they dumped that on us. I say they dumped on us. We've had maybe 2 weeks to figure this out. Okay. The school, we knew I think last spring, they were doing some of kind of this course materials package, and we heard that they were going to do away with it, and then it was either going to be do away with it altogether, or the entire campus was going to do it. And we got word about 2 weeks ago that the entire campus was going to do it. Yes.
I'd be blunt about it.
Sure.
I think it's a scam of your money. Like, you can opt out of it and just rent the textbooks for way cheaper.
You can.
It's $600 for 16 credit hours, or $500 for 16 credit hours. You're better off renting the textbook.
There's some of that, yes. I would suggest if you went to buy a print version of this, it's going to be $300-400.
And you don't even get to keep it.
If you rent, yes.
With the rater.
Correct. There is all of that. So yes, be smart consumers, do what you want to do with it, right? If you opt into it, you do get access for not too bad a price of all the materials for all your courses. I think you have to opt out of everything. Your choice. Makes me no difference. If you opt in, you're supposed to be able to go through this Brightwave link and have access to the e version of the text. This is what I will tell you. I'm going to assign homework out of the 10th edition. Okay, 10th edition of the text. I'll assign homework out of this 10th edition. How you gain access to that, I leave up to you. Okay. For the exams, right? So I say here, for the exams, I have a handful of printed loose leaf 9th editions of the text that I'll make available. So I'm going to kind of look and see how many people I've got, who's got versions of the text. I'll make sure that I've got at least enough copies, at least of the property tables in the back. Okay. So I'm trying to e-text out this semester. I'm not sure how much I'm going to like it. We'll go from there. We'll figure it out. Right. Apologize, you guys get to be getting pics on this semester. But again, the 10th edition is what I'll assign homework out of the 10th edition. How you gain access to the problems out of the 10th edition, do them, I leave to you. If you're this far along in an engineering degree, you're probably starting to figure out how to figure things out. That's kind of the goal. That's by design. So if you have questions, come see me. But and then again, during the exam, so 2 things about the exam. So if you would like a physical copy of this text, and you don't have the money to go buy a hard copy of it, and it's brand new, so I don't know how many used copies are out there. This is a wonderful text, honestly. I love this author's Changle and Bowles. They've added this new author in the last couple of editions. I don't know that individual. I teach both in my fluid mechanics class and this thermodynamics course. I love Changle's approach and how he talks. I feel like he talks to the reader, not down to the reader, which is really easy to find a lot of engineering texts that they talk down to you. I really feel like this author talks to you. So I really appreciate what they do. With all that said, now they've made some changes to this 10th edition. But if you went and bought an old beat up 6th edition online for as cheap as you can find it, the text is going to be very much the same. So if you wanted to go buy you an old hard copy edition to use for the exam, so you don't have to use one of my loose leaf sets of tables, that's perfectly fine. You'll have all the information you need. And then you'll have a nice reference text once you leave this course. Okay, yes,
Are the homework sets rather different from the addition?
yes, that's how they make their money. They change the from edition to edition, they about double the price and they scramble the homework off. So that's it. Yeah. So most of the homework problems will probably be in a previous edition. They may change some of the number. They'll definitely change the order of the homework set. They'll change some of the numbers within the problems. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They do update their graphics. And like I said, in this one, they did make actually a couple of changes that I think are actually beneficial. Took them 10 editions to do it, but here we go. They put some check your understanding questions in there, which I think are really good throughout the chapters. They split the enormous chapter 7 in previous editions into chapter 7 and 8 now. So there are some advantages to this. What else we got here? Questions about the text so far? Okay. So like I say, if you can find you a cheap beat up, if you've got access somehow to the 10th edition and you want an actual physical copy of the book, go see if you can find you a cheap, old beat up 7th, 8th edition, as cheap as you can find it. And you'll like that. I promise you'll like it. So it is a wonderful text to have on the shelf. I work here locally. I'll mention more off camera, with a group of about 30 different engineers and a handful of, it's not uncommon. I'll walk to somebody's cubicle and they've got texts like thermodynamics, heat transfer, stuff like that. Some of their texts from college sitting on the shelf that we'll refer to from time to time. So it depends on what you're working in. A lot of people I work with work more in machinery design, but anyway, all that to say, having those kind of reference texts are not a bad idea. And you don't have to pay full price and get the same quality. Okay. Let's see what else then. We could talk about these course learning objectives. I really don't like talking about them at the beginning of the semester because I think they're just words at this point. They're wonderful words. They're very, very important. Do not come away from what I'm telling you saying, oh, if Alex said the learning outcomes or learning objectives aren't important. No. These are very important. When I'm looking at my course and trying to compare it to some random universities that a student is transferring to, I really don't care so much about the course description. I'm interested in these statements right here. Upon successful completion of the course, a student should be able to, and for a 3-hour course, there should be anywhere from 1 to 10 of those. 10's a lot, depending on what they are. In a good engineering course like this, you should be looking probably between 4 and 7 for a 3-hour class. That's the way these are structured. So these are wonderful things. We are going to look at these on the last day of class when we review for the final, because at that point, upon successful completion of this course, you should be able to do these things. For a comprehensive final, if these are well written, these are a wonderful place to study from. And that's what we'll do the last day of class. So again, I'm not saying they're not important. They're very important. You're saying let's read through those throughout the semester, but I think right now they're just words. Awesome. What might be more important to us at this point is how am I going to grade this? All right, so a few things here. 10-point scale, standard 10-point scale. We'll talk, you'll see how I grade as we get a little further along. I've had one summer some students from a local university went and complained to my dean that I was at my grading scale. Their grading scale at their school was always 85 and above as an A, and I was being too harsh. I'm like, okay, first, I know how your university grades. It's not the same way I grade. So I can grade and hit a 10-point scale just fine. Anyway, I didn't get an opportunity to talk to students. That's probably the best. So yes, I do a 10-point scale. A couple of caveats you can see down at the bottom. 12.5% of the course attendance. So basically we have a grade called the AW. This is about all the time I want to spend on this, as little as possible, because I don't really think it's applicable to you guys. We're trying to fish out people that are trying to cheat Pell Grant systems here, right? So if with all that said, what you do need to know is if you don't show up to a class in the first 8 of that class, for us, that's the first 2 weeks, right? you don't show up in the first 2 weeks, I'm supposed to give you an AW. That means we kick you out of the class. Okay. So what I'm telling you here, you guys are here, so you're safe. If you're out there and you're watching this on YouTube and it's the end of week 2, and I don't know that you're going to do this course mostly online, send an email, stop, right? Pause the video right now, send an email, right? Because you may already be AW. Does that make sense? Right? You're here, so you guys are okay. If you're watching this online, make sure that I know that you're going to complete the course mostly online. And that's just good policy. If you're in a flex course, you're going to complete the course mostly online, make sure that instructor knows that. And then just kind of remind us throughout the semester, if they're like me, they will get busy with other stuff. So just keep dinging this once in a while. Okay. But either format's fine. I feel very comfortable. I've kind of structured the course where it's okay and it's flexible. Last statement there, if things occur during the semester that makes it more difficult than it should be, and it's not your fault, I reserve the right to make the course easier, basically. So at the end of the semester, so like, for example, I think spring of 2020, when we were forced to go online mid-semester, nobody signed up for online. I've never taught online, so it was fun, right? I think I was prepared to go to a 13-point grading scale with those guys. I think I settled at 11, and when I looked at 12, I was like, all right, 12 points not going to help anybody. We'll stay at 11. That's going to get everybody kind of where they need to be. What I mean by that is, if I go to an 11-point scale at the end of the semester, that means 89 above is an A, 78 above is a B, 67 above is a C, right? So instead of 10 points, it's 11 points for each grade. With that said, do understand that if everybody fails the first exam, that doesn't mean I'm automatically going to lower the grading scale, right? If I look, I'm like, that is almost verbatim the exact same exam I gave spring 13, and I know what the average grade in that was, and there's not really any difference at this point. That's not the kind of reason I'm going to adjust the grading scale, right? What's that? You can't plot. No, yeah, no, you can't plot at this point. Now, I mean, with that said, if we have random ice storms between now and middle September, which is possible, it's Oklahoma, right? And we lose power for a week and we have to close campus for a week, and it's like, all right, well, you guys didn't sign up for that. That's the kind of thing that's like, all right, maybe it makes sense. We adjust the grading scale. Okay. So that's just in writing here. I reserve the right to do that. It's pretty rare that I have to, but I mean, given the times we live in, that happens. Okay. How does that work then? So there are then 3 categories upon which I will base those grades. One is homework. I've started building in some quizzes, and looking at this 10th edition, these checking your understanding little quiz questions he puts in there. I think some of those might show up as quiz questions also, right? So every once in a while, there might be a little quiz in Canvas where it's probably multiple choice. You just go in and click a few things and you'll get some simple points. There are some quizzes I've already pre-built that are kind of based off of old exam problems or like exam problems. And a lot of times they'll just be like, given this problem, what equations would you use to solve it? Right. And it's really, and we'll talk more when we get closer to it. It's really kind of set up there to help you figure out, okay, how do you study for this type of class? Well, you figure out if I can effectively set problems up to a clear path to a solution. That's really the goal here. And that should be the goal of the sophomore level engineering courses. Engineering is the application of existing science and math knowledge to solve problems. My goal is to get you to where, okay, learning a little bit about the first law of thermodynamics, can I use the first law of thermodynamics and some other things to get to a solution to this problem? That's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing. So the quizzes a lot of times are kind of, here's a problem. Which of these would be a good path to a solution to this problem? And again, that's kind of there to help you figure out how you study for these types of exams. There's not too many of those quizzes, but there's some. I'll build some more. 3 exams, 20% of your grade each, spread out throughout the semester. And then there'll be a final exam where 25% graded. And the final exam is comprehensive. And let's talk about the homework. So homework, you send me a PDF of your homework. If you've got a nice tablet, like a digital tablet where you can draw and write your homework right out on that, that's fine. If you want to kind of mix and match typing and writing, however you want to generate that PDF is fine. As long as it displays pretty nicely in the Canvas reader. So what I would suggest is try to format it to where it's pretty close to a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper as your output in PDF, and that way the Canvas reader doesn't get really mad and upset. It's a lot harder to scroll around when things like really wide and not normal sized. Okay. The simple thing is just if you just want to work these out on like engineering paper or notebook paper, and you just scan pictures of those and send me the PDFs of those pictures, that's perfectly fine. However, if you need any help with that, let me know. I'm finding in these after times, post-pandemic, you guys are normally pretty good at that kind of stuff. Seriously, if you need some help generating PDF with your homework, come see me. It's not a prerequisite skill, so I'm happy to help you get to a point where we're both okay with that. So yeah, homework, you're gonna send me a PDF. I'll go through and grade those. I don't write a ton of stuff on those, but I do go in and actually draw a circle. You know, you missed a negative sign here, or these units don't work out, whatever the case may be. I'll actually put some feedback in the homework when you get things wrong. Make sure you go back and actually look at what I've marked wrong and marked up. Because if you keep making the same mistake over and over again, you'll encounter an exponential sliding scale of points that you'll lose. So if you're making the same unit mistakes in week 10 that you were making in week 2, don't expect a lot of points unless no more problems. So make sense? You're just not paying attention at that point, right? And by the way, especially if it's the same mistake that Chegg makes, boy, I get really happy to take points off of that. If it's late, it does incur a penalty. So I put due dates in Canvas. Basically, if you can get it to me before the next class period, you might lose 10 points. If you get it to me like the same day, it might only be 5 points off. Right? That's pretty rapid. It's not too big a deal as long as you get it to me pretty quick. A lot of times the homework's going to be due on Wednesday. And so as long as if you got it to me on Thursday, it's not too big a penalty, because then over the course of the weekend, I'll get those graded. If you get it to me, so if it's due Wednesday and you get it to me the next Monday, that means I didn't grade it with everybody else's over the weekends. I've got to break out a different answer key for the ones that I've got to grade on the next weekend, right? So that's a bigger penalty. That's a 50% penalty. Yeah, so don't hit that. And then also there's the statement here. Don't come to me at the end of the semester and say, hey, you know those homeworks that I missed? Can I submit them for anything? Nope. No. If it's exam 1 homework after exam 1, I don't accept it. It's exam 2 homework after exam 2, I don't accept it. Okay? Because at that point, you're just trying to get points. The homework's there to help you succeed at the tests. If you don't get it to me before the relevant tests, it doesn't help you as much. It might help you. It's going to help you some for the final. It's not that it doesn't help you at all. I don't grade homework after the relevant exam. So if it's chapters 1, 2, or 3, that's exam 1. Get chapters 1, 2, and 3 homework all to me before exam 1, and understand chapters 1 and 2. You're only going to get 50% at that point. Okay. Be careful of plagiarization. Now, in this world today, that's kind of this interesting statement. This is my philosophy here. People will tell you don't use Chegg and Fowler's Scholarship. That's not necessarily a true statement. Or any other service like. I'm picking on Chegg. You don't have to just use Chegg. There are other services out there. If you're not aware, there's services out there that you can send them your homework problem and they'll send you back an expert solution. Right? Do you know the credentials of that person writing your solution? Not a clue. They're novice. Are they somebody that's figured out how to game the system and they're just reposting the same wrong solution that somebody else has already posted? There's a lot of that. Okay. Here's what I do with Chegg or other solutions. If I can find your solution online and you give it to me verbatim from online solutions. So a couple things happen. One is that I look at your entire assignment and compare it against that same online solution set that we found. And if the entire homework assignment is verbatim to some online service, then it's either 100% or it's 0. That's it. Now, if it's not verbatim, then I'll actually pick it apart and grade it. So don't give me verbatim stuff, right? Do the homework. It's there for you. But if you give me verbatim, you're welcome to just copy check verbatim and turn that in. And it'll be 100% or it will be 0. If there is a single mistake in the check solution anywhere, any of the problems, it's a 0 for the entire assignment. Make sense? That's my rule. I've written in the syllabus that I can give you a 0 for the entire assignment for plagiarizing at all. That's normally what I do. If everything's right, I don't know if you actually understand that everything's right and you just copy it down because it's right, or if you just copy it down because you're lazy. And in either case, grading your exam is going to be pretty easy. Either you get it or you don't. So the homework's either going to be, well, you get it or you don't. This is one of the first courses that you're going to hit where there's a huge difference between seeing a solution and saying, I understand that, and actually being able to do that solution yourself when I put a test problem in front of you that you haven't seen before. There's a huge difference between going to Chegg, seeing the solution and saying, oh, yeah, I get that. I understand. I can do the homework. No, you can't. No, oh, maybe you can. I'll put it this way. Maybe you can if you do a lot of effort then later, because you're going to have to internalize that solution. Okay. We'll talk about homework structure. I don't have a hardcore structure that your homework has to fit into. You're going to have those instructors like your homework has to have a diagram and you have to have your givens over here and you have to write out the entire problem statement. As long as I can clearly understand what you were trying to accomplish, we'll get along just fine. Okay. Anyway, okay, so we'll talk more about how I grade homework as we go throughout the semester. Quizzes. I'm still kind of trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to structure quizzes. I'm adding them in. It's kind of been post-pandemic. I had some really cool tools I developed during the pandemic for testing, and now I'm able to use those kind of to help what we're doing with quizzes. Okay, so I'll build a few more. As I mentioned here, collectively, the quizzes will account for a much smaller portion of your grade of the homework and quizzes grade. The homework's going to be the big bulk of the points. I'll try to make sure the homework's at least 10%. Of the 15%, the homework's like 10, the quizzes are no more than 5. That's going to be kind of my goal. So the quizzes won't be a lot of points, but they will help you by all means. I do drop the lowest homework score. That's mentioned somewhere up above. And let's talk about the exams, because the exams count for a huge chunk of your grade. That's by design, because that's what you're actually sitting in front of me doing. And that's really what I'm measuring. So the homework is there for you to practice for the exams. The exams are really there for you to display that you can solve problems as engineers can. Right? So 3 exams and a comprehensive final. The rules essentially the same for all 4 of those. They'll exist of problems that are very similar to the homework problems. There's no multiple choice, there's no true false, there is vocabulary built into the problems, because what will happen is you'll get roughly a paragraph of information and you'll get to figure out, okay, how do I solve this problem? And so within there, it'll say something like, the problem might say, work is done to an adiabatic closed system. Well, I've just told you 4 things there. And once again, there's no problems asking you true or false. An adiabatic system has heat transfer. There's not going to be any of that. It's going to be built into the problem statement of when I tell you you've got an adiabatic closed system. We've talked about that multiple times. And you've done homework problems over those. You have an idea of what should be. So that the vocabulary gets built in as it does when you're working for a company and your manager hands you, hey, we've got this resin that we need to figure out if we can 3D print this, right? Okay, well that might be about all you get, and you're gonna have to figure out the rest from there. Yes.
Would you say it's a rather cumulative word?
Absolutely. There's very little we will do in the first 2 weeks that we will not use in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, it's kind of fun to take and teach in that aspect. It's also a bit scary because that means the good news is if you didn't miss it in the first week, that means you do still have plenty of opportunity to continue to build it up and kind of revisit it and refresh it and re-strengthen it. But yes, very much cumulative. Those of you, if any of you have had statics already, kind of very similar to statics, where there's very little we do early in that class that we don't do again. Yeah, very much built on it. During the exams, you can use a calculator. As long as, if I think you're looking at PDFs of solutions manuals, or if I think you're looking at web pages from your calculator, I'm gonna swap it out for one of mine. Right? I'm not interested in your ability to surf the internet on an exam, okay? So, and used to, I could just say, oh, well, just don't use a calculator that can access the internet. Well, that's kind of, then I get into, okay, well, have you black market hacked your calculator so it can read PDFs solution manuals? I'm dealing with engineering students, so I'll put it this way. If I find myself in a position where I've got to really crack down and go to and say, well, we can only use calculators that are approved for use on the FE exam, I can. I've not. I'm comfortable with just a dozen of you that I can pretty well police calculators. If I had 100 of you, we would use calculators, only calculators that are approved for use on the FE exam. Those are no text entry calculators. Right? There's a list of approved. You can go Google FE exam approved calculators. That's your fundamentals of engineering exam that you'll want to take here. Either your first or second senior year. They're pretty specific about what calculators you can and can't use for those, because they don't want people typing text in and selling that on the internet. Right? So if I had a bunch of you that I could not effectively police, that's what I would do. I'm pretty comfortable that I can manage. I've had a few semesters where I'm like, I don't know how this person's getting through this, but anyway. Questions about calculators so far? Whatever your standard off-the-shelf TI graphing calculator will be just fine. Anything less than that will be just fine. As long as it doesn't access the internet, as long as you're not reading solutions manuals. If you're not sure, I assure you, do not beg me for forgiveness. You probably won't ask for permission. Ask in advance. Hey, can I use this calculator? You know what? Let's look at it. Sure. You get a sheet of notes on the exam, and you can use a printed copy of the textbook. I will have, and I should just add this in my syllabus here. I'll have some loose leaf copies of the text available. I've got 10th, 8th, 9th, and an old beat up 6th edition of the book I'll have available in the back of the room. So no more students we've got. If any of you come in with an old beat up 6th or 7th edition, we're gonna have plenty of these. Yes,
So you rather strict on the time frame of the exam?
yes, 75 minutes. We'll talk about how I grade them.
I have work at one. I'll talk to you.
Okay, no worries. All right, so just mostly some additional information explaining that if you cheat, you're not gonna like the results. Okay, feel free to read this. Well, not feel free. Go through and read this. Make sure you understand what it says about taking exams, what I'm gonna be looking for, and what don't do. Had a student one time took their test at the testing center, and as I'm going through and grading it, and I realized I graded problem number 1. There's like 2 versions of a solution for problem number 1, right? So like one solution over here and over here on the other side, and they crossed out one side and grade this one. Okay, no big deal. Go to the next page, and the way I do is I grade everybody's problem number 1, then I grade everybody's problem number 2, then I grade everybody's problem number 3. So I don't know whose problem I'm grading. Okay. So I put it in the pile. As I'm grading problem number 2, I go through and it happens again. It's like the entire page has been erased and then another solution's written on top of it. I happen to flip back and look at problem number 1. Sure enough, it's the same student. Give me 2 solutions now for 2 problems. They give me 2 different solutions. Written 1, erased 1. I think problem 3, they did it with wrote 1, wrote another one, crossed out, grade this one. Like most people struggle to finish the exam once. Very few people are going to finish this exam twice. Who is this? And like, where did these come from? And I started looking my answers up on Chegg. Started searching Chegg for my problem statements, and there they are, verbatim. Verbatim. Gave the student a 0. Student comes back and says, "No, those are my solutions on Chegg." Why? And you wrote them number 1, you wrote them verbatim. How are you doing that? Number 2, why? Oh, I didn't want them to go away, so they weren't getting answers, so I answered them. You know what? I don't believe any of this. If you think you can appeal to a grade appeals committee and get them to believe this story, fine. I'll do what that grade appeals committee says, but I'm happy to take this to grade appeals appeal. Here's how you do it. Have fun. Okay. Yeah, that's some of the stuff you see here. Okay. You give me Chegg solutions or any other online resource solutions on an exam, I don't care how you did it. I don't care how you did it. You're not going to like your grades. Don't do that. The biggest thing is each student submits their own original work during exams. Again, if you please use the online resources to help you with the homework. Please use them. Please use them as tools. And we'll talk throughout the semester about how can I use this tool, not a crutch. Use them as tools. Make sure they're helping you. When you get to the exam, you're going to need to be able to show me how to get to a solution on the exam, okay? Without those online resources. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're working through the homework. If you need to miss an exam, there's options, right? If you let me know more than 24 hours in advance, I can put you in the testing center. And that's really not enough, like honestly, because I need to write a different version of the test for you to put you in the testing center, especially if you're taking it at a different time. If you've got accommodations and to put you in the testing center for whatever reason, if you're taking it at the same time, you probably can get the same version everybody else gets. But if you're taking it at a different time, I'm going to have to make a different version for you. So I need more than 24 hours to stand a chance to figure out. If you know you've got a trip coming up and it falls right during, see when it falls with respect to our exam schedule. If it's going to fall during an exam, let me know as far in advance as you can. Okay. And then that way, because what happens is when I go to write the exams, if I know I need 3 versions of this exam, then I can pick problems that I can easily shift a few things around and write different versions of them. And I know you're getting the same difficulty exam as everybody else does. If you give me less, if you give me that 24 hours is it, I can't promise. I will do my best and I'm pretty good at it, but it's really tough to write multiple versions that quickly that are the same difficulty. Okay. So give me as much notice as you can. If you get at least more than 24 hours, I will work with you. We get inside 24 hours. I know accidents happen. I know emergencies happen. I know sicknesses happen, and that's fine. That's what option B is for. If you give me less than 24 hours advance notice, it's like, all right, look, let's just do option B. That means we're going to figure out what your standard deviation is compared to the class average on all the exams, and you'll get that much plus or minus on the missing exam with respect to the class average. If you want more details than that, come by. I'll work out an example with you, make it very clear. If you find yourself needing option B, that's you can't make it to an exam that's less than 24 hours before that exam. Make sense? So there's 2 options there. If you know you can't be here for an exam, let me know as far in advance as you can.
What's the average number of questions to your grade?
4. Yeah, the 3 exams are all 4 problems. The final is a few more, but you get a little longer to work on it. Now, yeah, so makeup, late policy, that's all mentioned above. Holidays and dates here. What else? So we talked a little bit about academic integrity, my do's and don'ts there. So a lot of what you see here is kind of the standard stuff that should be in everybody's syllabus. So I'm not going to go through and read this to you. You can read this. Make sure you have read it at least once on somebody's syllabus. Again, it should be on everybody's syllabus, so it's there. We have this alert system. If you want to get text when there's an emergency, sign up for that. We need access services. If we need to do something beyond the scope of the syllabus, we can do that, but I've got to work with that office. You can't give me a letter that says, I have this condition, what do we do? I mean, you can, and I'm going to say, you need to go talk to these people. Legally, I can't enter into an agreement outside the syllabus. They'll tell me what I need to do to help you, and that's what they'll do. That's fine. That's what they're there for, and they do a really good job. So if you need help getting to them, let me know. Let's get you in touch with those people. Okay. What else we got? There's some additional, again, wonderful additional information. I'm not skipping over because it's not important. It's here and it should be in all of your syllabus. So if you have questions, let me know. Oh, I did skip over attendance. Notice I'm very specific about how much attendance counts towards your grade. It does not. So I do take attendance for a variety of reasons. One is just simply for the AWs, but then again, it's also just, I've had administrators from time to time that have really wanted to see. So if a student comes and complains about their grade after the semester, they want to be able to go back and refer to that attendance score and talk to the student about, well, you've been here twice in 16 weeks. It's whatever. It's not necessarily for us. If you take attendance, but it's not necessarily for us. Okay? So it does not count it for or against your grade when you're here. I think you'll find most of us probably will find benefit from being here. If you're the type of person that doesn't have to be here, And you can show up and just take the exams, just watching my YouTube videos and reading the book. I'm happy to get out of your way. I'm 100% happy to get out of your way. I'm okay with that. I don't take that personally. I couldn't do it personally. I need more structure, but I know that about myself. You know how you learn. If not, that's part of what we're here is figure out how you learn. Okay. Questions, comments, complaints about the syllabus so far? Okay. I'm gonna stop this video. I'm gonna post this after class here. I'll post this